Hi guys, thanks so much for watching The Social Life, the place to be for entrepreneurs with a purpose. So today I want to talk to you about how to post on social media. I just have 5 quick tips. This is really an extension to what I've already talked about in my last video on how to understand social media and the different types of things you need to know before you get started. So today I want to talk about when you're starting to create your post, here are a few things that you should keep in mind. The first thing is you want to try and post as often as possible. Really, every day is ideal. And when I started posting on social media, this was really a game changer. I had a friend talk to me about like, oh yeah, you should be posting like every day. And I thought she was crazy because I couldn't believe that I should be posting every day. I was like, why should I do that? But once I really did make that change and I started really focusing on trying to post every single day, it really does boost your content as well as how much people see you on social media. So really what that does is it allows your platform to be able to pull from your content all the time and have something to be posting from you, which then puts you ranking higher in what people will actually see and what goes into their feeds. So you really want to focus on trying to post every single day if possible. The next piece of advice is if you're posting on platforms that have hashtags or they have long tail keywords or any of the stuff that I talked about in my last video, you really want to find out what the maximum number of keywords, hashtags, just regular tags that you can use within those posts in order for you to rank. So for instance, Instagram gives you 28 hashtags that you can use on its platform per post. So why would you only use 3 hashtags? Always use 28. Like every single time you post, use 28 hashtags. What I tend to do is in my Evernote, I create, hashtags that I use for my business. And then when I'm ready to use those hashtags for a specific post, I just go through and pick and choose the hashtags that I know I want to be found under. So just have a place where you keep your hashtags and then go back there when you're ready to post. Open up a comment and use the post that you would use. So I just use the 3 ellipses, then I go down about 4 dots, and then I use all my hashtags, my 28 hashtags. Sometimes I'll use 3 or 4 in the actual post, and then I'll use the other 24 to 25 down below. But that's really how you get ranked on platforms like Instagram. And then on Twitter, if you have already done the research and you've looked for what platforms will actually, I'm sorry, not what platforms. If you've gone on Twitter and you know how people are searching for different types of hashtags and that conversation fits into what your business does, then you would use those hashtags for your Twitter. So these are things that you might want to just research a little bit more just to figure out exactly how many hashtags you can use in each post for Twitter. It has to equal up to 140 characters or less, right? So you already know that. You know now that 28 for Instagram. And find out on Facebook, like what are your people talking about? Do the research, listen a little bit. That's what we talk about when I say listen. Use those skills to find out what people are already talking about and how they're grouping their conversations under what hashtags. And then when it comes to Google searches or Pinterest, they're using long tail keywords. So you want to know how many keywords can I add in there, and does it need to be done in a sentence form? Does it need to be done by tags? Like figure out how people are grouping their conversations, and then you go and do that so that your purpose can be found. My next tip is to test. Don't worry about what you're doing on social media right now. I mean, do things that you are okay with your brand being recognized with or being associated with. Always think in respect to your brand and how it makes your brand look or what your brand's identifying with. So, you got to look at what types of videos are you sharing, what types of information are you putting up. But when I say test, I mean test whether people like to see your face or people like to see your quotes or people like to see funny videos or what do people like to see? Don't worry about if you mess up on 1 or 2 posts. Those will go away in like no time. So don't worry about that. Just test. Do they want to hear more about your mission? Do they want to hear more about your purpose? Do they want to see your product? Do they want to see behind the scenes? Like what are the types of things that they want to see and know about from your brand? You should already have a pretty good idea of what people want to know. If you've downloaded that perfect customer, like how to attract your perfect customer download that I created a couple weeks ago, if you've downloaded that and you've done the work on that, you should have a pretty good idea of what they need to know and how you can add value to them. But for the most part, social media is all, in my opinion, one big test. So you're testing out everything. Do they want to see more of your family? What do they like to see? What do they respond more to? What do they engage with? And you won't be able to find that out unless you test it. So don't be afraid of testing. I really do think that online, that's kind of like the whole point of online, is like that's your little space on the internet, and you can do whatever you'd like to do because you're building your brand, and everything that you post has something to do with your brand and how you see your brand building online. So just remember that. Also keep in mind that if you put up a post that you don't like, or you put up a post and you're like, you know what, a few years later, like actually that's not gonna go with my brand, that doesn't do anything for me, you can always take it down. You can always delete things. Like it may never, go away off the internet completely, but it'll go away from your brand and being associated with your brand at that time. So just remember that. Don't be afraid to try different things. Don't be afraid to go live. Don't be afraid to, put up a picture of your family or of you or whatever, a selfie, whatever it is, just try and test it. So that is probably my biggest piece of advice for this video. The next most important thing is realize that everyone is not going to see your post. So even though you post every day, everybody's not on the internet like every single day looking at your specific post. They may miss a post or two. So if you're promoting something, that's why sometimes on Twitter you'll see the same promotion like 2 or 3 times if you're on there for the day, or you'll see it written in a different way or whatever, because people know that you don't always see the post. That's the beauty of the internet. It's like people are on at different times, and different audiences are on at different times. So you want to make sure that your message gets seen. So if you post 2 or 3 times on Instagram, it's not horrible, but you do need to know which platform you need to do that on. And in my live masterclass, we did talk about that. Like, which platforms can you post multiple times on? Because those are important to know. Otherwise, you'll end up annoying your audience, and you don't want to do that. But when you get to know your audience really well, like with that worksheet, I'm not trying to persuade you, but you should go download it. It is totally free. It's just free information. And it's all about building your brand to attract your customers and how to find who that customer is. Just understanding kind of like what that attraction piece looks like. The last piece of information that I want to leave you guys with, which I do feel like is extremely important, is direct. When you're creating posts, where are you directing them? Are you directing them to your website? Are you directing them to a newsletter? Are you directing them to your YouTube channel? Are you directing them to your Instagram? It doesn't matter really where you're directing them, although you know that if you've watched this channel enough, you know that I always think you should be directing people to your newsletter. So if you're directing them to your website, then you should have a place on there where people can sign up for your newsletter. But if you're directing them to, say a social media platform or something, it's easy to lose them at that social media platform because you don't have an email that's not your owned content. And in my last video, I talked about owned content. And it's really important to know which content you own and which content you don't, because you want to make sure that the platforms that you own, like your website that you paid for, you own that piece. So you always want to put everything as much as you can there so that people can go and find you there. So, and if you're not doing that, you need to make sure that you have a newsletter so that at least you can always contact them and tell them like what you're doing next, or how to get involved with your purpose, or how to get involved with your business. So these are just little tips that I have that I feel like a lot of you need to know. If you took my masterclass, there was probably a lot of information in there that we went over that helps you understand how the funnel works. It doesn't necessarily go through all of the details that you need for getting started on social media. So anyway, if you want to join our next live masterclass, our Unleashed chats or anything like that, go ahead and sign up for the Social Life Diaries, and that's where I put all of my dates for the next ones so you don't miss it. And that's where you also get an invitation to the Social Life Tribe on Facebook, which is a network of other entrepreneurs with a purpose there to share resources to help you answer any of your questions, and a way to also like communicate with me directly so that we can talk about any sort of issues you might have with building your purpose and unleashing your something amazing. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly hope this video helped you, and if it did, I would love to hear which tip helped you the most, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.